When I met Jessica, I wasn't looking for a family. I wasn't hunting for a ready-made life where the walls were already painted and the story was already written. I was 24, hungry, proud of the grind, proud of the quiet kind of discipline most people never notice until it's gone. Jessica was 31. She had this way of making a room feel smaller. Not because she was loud, she wasn't. Because she carried something heavy in her face, like she'd been tired for years and kept going anyway. She didn't come across desperate. She came across done. Like she'd stopped expecting kindness, which made her react to it like it was rare. We met through a friend of a friend. Normal. Boring. No fireworks. The fireworks came later, when she started telling me about her life, how it had been cracked open and stomped on and she was still standing. Back then she wasn't a mom of 3. Back then she had one boy, Ethan. He was little, old enough to talk, young enough to believe whatever his mom told him. He would sit beside her on the couch and watch cartoons, one hand always touching her sleeve like he was anchoring himself. I noticed that before I noticed her eyes. She told me she was recently separated. Not divorced yet. She said her husband was complicated. That was the first word. Complicated. Later it would become violent. Later it would become a monster. But it started soft, like she was easing me into it. And then, like a match dropped into gasoline, she told me she was pregnant. She said it was mine. Not with some dramatic announcement, either. She said it like a fact that scared her. Like she'd been holding it in and it finally spilled out. Her voice shook. Her hands trembled. She kept saying she didn't want to trap me, didn't want me to think she was trying to force a relationship. And I believed her. Because that's who I was back then, a guy who believed tears meant truth. A guy who heard "I'm pregnant" and immediately jumped into provider mode like it was a switch inside my skull. I remember the night I decided I was in. Ethan had fallen asleep on the couch, half on her lap. Jessica brushed his hair back and stared at him like he was the only thing keeping her from breaking apart. She looked at me and said, "I don't want him to grow up thinking chaos is normal." And I said, "Then it won't be." It felt heroic at the time. It felt like love with its sleeves rolled up. I didn't realize I was signing up to be the scaffolding she'd climb and kick away. I proposed before the baby was even born. Yeah. I know. Spare me the speech. I've already given myself every lecture on earth. At the time, it wasn't about pride, it was about certainty. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought I was choosing the harder path because it was the honorable one. She cried when I proposed. She said nobody had ever loved her like that. She said she'd finally feel safe. I ate every word like it was communion. Her divorce moved fast after that. Shockingly fast. She told me he didn't fight because he knew what he did. She claimed he had been abusive, allegations that later proved false. She said she kept it quiet because she was ashamed. I wanted to be the man she never had. The man who stands between her and whatever nightmare she brought with her. The baby came. Caleb. That's what we named him. Caleb Michael. She said she wanted my name in there. She held him in the hospital and looked at me with this soft, holy expression like I was the answer to everything. And I held him and felt my whole life tilt. You ever hold a baby and feel the future rush at you like a wave? That's what it was. I felt responsibility hit me in the chest and instead of running, I welcomed it. I looked at that tiny face and thought, that's my son. I didn't ask for a paternity test. Why would I? I trusted her. I trusted the way she looked at me, the way she squeezed my hand, the way she called me her miracle. I trusted the story because it made me feel like I mattered. After we got married, her life kept arriving. Lucas came into the picture later, her second boy from the first marriage. It was messy paperwork and tense calls and, you don't understand what he's capable of. She told me her ex had kept Lucas away out of spite, that he used the kid like a weapon. She said she was finally getting him back because the courts were seeing the truth. Then came another boy from that marriage. 12, 7, and 1.5, eventually. Here's the thing nobody tells you, you don't adopt kids in your heart in one big moment. It happens in stupid, ordinary pieces. It happens when Ethan gets sick and only calms down if I'm the one holding the bowl. It happens when Lucas falls off his bike and screams my name before he screams hers. It happens when Caleb, tiny, sticky, wobbling, runs to the door when he hears my keys, like I'm the sun showing up. I love them. Not like a charity project. Not like, I guess I'll do the right thing. I love them like they were mine. I'd look at them sleeping and feel this protective rage toward the world. Jessica saw that love and she wore it like jewelry. At first she played the part, tired mom, grateful wife, rebuilding. She'd cook sometimes. She'd sit with me on the couch and rest her head on my shoulder. She'd whisper plans, vacations, a bigger house, we're going to be okay. Then slowly, she started disappearing. Not physically at first. Emotionally. She'd get dressed and take forever in the mirror. Perfume for a shift. Hair done for just work. Her phone became an extra limb. Screen always face down. Password changed. Smiles aimed at the phone instead of me. I worked from home, but I also worked nights. I took contracts, late calls, extra freelance, anything that brought money in. Because 3 kids, yeah, 3, because I believed Caleb was mine, are extremely expensive. Shoes, doctor visits, daycare, school supplies, groceries that vanish like magic. I'd put the boys to bed, clean the kitchen, then open my laptop at midnight and work until my eyes burned. Some nights I'd be answering emails at 2:30 a.m. while Jessica was closing at work. Some nights I'd hear her come in late, laughing softly at something on her phone, and I'd pretend I was asleep because I didn't want to fight. I thought this was marriage, sacrifice now, peace later. I didn't know I was funding my own betrayal. 2.5 years of this. Me raising her kids. Me building routines. Me becoming dad in every way that matters, school meetings, scraped knees, bedtime stories, pancakes on Saturday, staying up when one of them had a nightmare and swore they heard shouting in their dream. Jessica started dumping more and more on me. Can you pick them up? Can you handle dinner? I'm exhausted. I have to stay late. My boss is pressuring me. Always a reason. And I believed her. Because I wanted to. Because the alternative meant admitting I'd built my life around a lie. Then came the day she asked for a divorce like she was ordering coffee. No big argument. No crying. Just annoyance. She sat across from me at the kitchen table, the same table where I'd cut sandwiches into triangles for the boys, and said she was tired of me. Said she felt trapped. Said she wanted more. She said I was too available, too predictable, like reliability was some kind of disease. Then she admitted she'd been seeing someone. Not with shame. With boredom. Like I should have expected it. And then she said the part that made the world go quiet. She wanted one of my apartments. One. Of my apartments. Like a prize. Like a severance package. She said she needed it to start fresh. She said she deserved stability. She said the boys would be better staying with me because I was good at that. She said she couldn't handle being a mom right now. She said she needed to find herself. I stared at her and felt something inside me detach. Because she wasn't just leaving. She was trying to keep the benefits of my life while discarding the responsibilities of hers. And here's one of the twists that still haunts me. While she talked, Caleb toddled into the kitchen and climbed onto my leg, sticky hands grabbing my pants, saying "Daddy" in that half-word baby way. Jessica didn't even look at him. She just kept explaining how the apartment would be in her name, for simplicity. For simplicity. That's when another twist slid into my head like a knife, Caleb's timing. The pregnancy. How fast everything moved. How convenient it all was. How she never once wanted to talk about DNA, medical records, family resemblance, nothing. I didn't say it out loud. Not yet. But it landed. And then the last twist of the night, quiet, nasty, real, came from Ethan. After Jessica left to think, Ethan stood in the hallway outside my room. Not crying. Not dramatic. Just hollow. He said, "She always leaves when things get hard." I didn't know what to say because I realized, in that moment, I wasn't losing a wife. I was inheriting the wreckage she was running from. And if she got her way, she'd take my apartment, leave her 3 boys with me, and walk into a new life wearing the stability I bled for, like it was always hers. Please advise me on what to do with this mess. Update 1. I did something I swore I'd never do, because it felt like crossing a line into paranoia. I hired a private detective. Not because I wanted revenge porn for my own misery. Not because I needed dirt to feel powerful. I did it because my lawyer leaned forward, folded his hands, and said, "You don't need suspicions. You need facts that hold up when someone's lying under oath." So I paid a man whose entire job is to quietly ruin illusions. I'll pour some cold water on myself here. I didn't expect it to be this bad. I figured maybe one affair, some overlap, a timeline that looked ugly but survivable. Something messy. Something human. I was wrong. The first report came back clean enough to make me uneasy: financial trails, phone records, gaps, patterns. The kind of stuff that whispers instead of screams. Then the second report landed, and it felt like someone reached into my chest and shut the lights off. Let me be clear, because accuracy matters now. I already knew the first 2 weren't biologically mine. Ethan and Lucas, that was never the lie that gutted me. I stepped into their lives eyes open. I chose the late nights, the school pickups, the quiet trust that builds when a kid realizes you're not leaving. Blood wasn't the contract. Love was. That part never scared me. What broke me was the third. Caleb isn't mine. I read that sentence once. Then again. Then I pushed the paper away like it had teeth. That night, I didn't sleep. Not a minute. I sat on the floor outside his room while the house did its normal breathing, pipes ticking, fridge humming, like the universe didn't just knock the wind out of me. He slept curled around his stuffed animal, 1 foot sticking out from the blanket like always. I watched his chest rise and fall and felt something inside me fracture clean through. At some point I picked him up, too quietly, too late, and held him like I was stealing time. His head fit under my chin the way it always had. He smelled like soap and warmth and home. He wrapped his arm around my neck in his sleep and mumbled something that sounded like "Daddy." I held him in silence, trying to stay composed. I cried because biology had betrayed me in a way I didn't even know it could. I cried because every memory didn't disappear, but it suddenly hurt to touch. I cried because loving him never required proof, but losing the idea of him being mine felt like a death I wasn't allowed to grieve out loud. And then I cried because she knew. She always knew. The detective kept digging. Turns out she didn't just lie once, she lived in overlap. She never really ended relationships, she stacked them. Before me, during me, and after me, there were multiple men. Not flings. Full relationships running parallel like lanes on a highway. Some overlapping pregnancies. Some men told they were the only one. I wasn't special. I wasn't the exception. I was just the next chapter. Then came the part that made my stomach turn cold. There was a man from her past, quiet, blue-collar, by every account decent, who she'd accused of being abusive years ago. It was part of the story she used to justify everything: court sympathy, distance, protection. The investigator found messages, witnesses, and timelines that didn't just poke holes in it, they collapsed it. She'd slandered him. Lied to cops. Lied to employers. Lied to friends. Destroyed his reputation because it made her story cleaner. That's when it finally clicked: I wasn't married to a wounded survivor. I was married to a woman who weaponized stories and let men carry the fallout. The file is thick now. DNA reports. Communication records. Depositions being prepared. Evidence that doesn't care how convincing someone cries. When my lawyer saw the full file, he didn't smile. He just nodded once and said, "This changes everything." She doesn't know how much I know yet. She still thinks I'm confused, guilty, hesitant, that I'll try to do what's best the way I always have. That window is closed. There's a trial in a week. A real one. Fluorescent lights. Hard chairs. Oaths. Consequences. I'm not excited. I'm not vindicated. I'm exhausted in a way sleep won't fix, but I'm steady. For the first time since this started, I'm standing on something solid, even if it's wreckage. Next update will be after court. Update 3. The trial is over. No cliffhanger. No surprise twist. No dramatic pause where the truth almost slips on a technicality. It happened, it ended, and yeah, I won. Not the movie kind. No applause. No victory speech. I won the way you win after a long illness, by surviving, by being told you can finally stop bracing for impact. Courtrooms are ugly places when you already know the truth. Fluorescent lights. Stale air. People pretending this is all very civilized while lives get dissected in public. She cried. Tried to reshape the story one last time. Tried to sound wounded instead of exposed. It didn't work. Because facts don't flinch. The DNA evidence didn't just clear things up, it cleaned the slate. All 3 boys are from her first marriage. Every one of them. Ethan. Lucas. Caleb. Same father. Same bloodline. No mystery left to rot inside me. And here's the part one didn't expect, the relief. It didn't erase the grief, but it stopped the bleeding. I wasn't losing a son anymore. I wasn't trapped in that gray purgatory of almost fatherhood, waiting for biology to finish cutting me loose. The truth didn't feel like theft. It felt like clarity. The man she buried under lies, her first husband, wasn't a monster. He was a casualty. The court didn't just dismantle her story, it exhumed it. Abuse allegations collapsed under scrutiny. False reports. Coached statements. Timelines that couldn't exist in the same universe. The kind of fraud that doesn't just wreck marriages, it ruins lives. He was acquitted. I was there when they opened the gate. Not because I had to be. Because I wanted to look him in the eye when the world finally handed him his name back. We didn't hug. Didn't shake hands like heroes in a war movie. We stood there quietly while 3 boys ran toward him and they'd been taught to fear and hadn't been allowed to miss. I stepped back. That was my last job as scaffolding, letting the structure stand on its own. She didn't walk out with them. She was taken away by police. Fraud. Perjury. False accusations. Identity manipulation. The court didn't call it revenge. It called it consequences. I watched her get led away and felt nothing. No triumph. No satisfaction. Just the clean finality of knowing I was done carrying a weight that was never mine. Here's something nobody saw coming, including me. I stayed. I didn't disappear from the boys' lives. We still talk. Still grab ice cream sometimes. Still argue about video games and homework and stupid little things that matter. I'm not their father, but I'm not nothing either. And nobody's trying to erase that. Their dad and I. We talk too. Coffee at first. Awkward. Careful. 2 men comparing scars without measuring them. Somewhere along the line, it turned into something solid. Not brothers. Not best friends. Just 2 guys who survived the same storm from opposite sides and decided not to hate each other for it. That night after court, I slept 8 straight hours. No dreams. No alarms. Just dark, quiet rest. That's how I knew it was really over. Update 4. I didn't bounce back. I didn't reinvent myself overnight. Didn't wake up glowing with purpose and some empty motivational talk about resilience. I went to a psychologist. Weekly. Same chair. Same room. Same questions that didn't let me hide behind anger or competence. We didn't talk about her much at first. We talked about why I thought being useful was the same thing as being loved. Why I stayed quiet when things felt wrong. Why I wore responsibility like armor and called it honor. Trauma doesn't announce itself. It disguises itself as discipline. Some sessions wrecked me. Some left me numb. Some left me lighter in a way that terrified me because it felt unfamiliar. Healing isn't cinematic. It's repetitive. It's boring. It's choosing, over and over, not to reopen the same wound just because it's familiar. And somewhere in the middle of that work, no fireworks, no agenda, I met someone new. She doesn't need saving. She doesn't lean on my stability like it's a resource to mine. She asks questions and actually listens to the answers. When I go quiet, she doesn't punish me for it. She knows my past and doesn't treat it like a resume or a warning label. The first time she said, "You don't have to prove anything," I almost laughed. Almost didn't believe her. We're slow. Deliberate. Honest to the point of discomfort. No overlapping lives. No borrowed futures. Just two adults choosing each other without leverage or debt. I still see the boys. Still talk to their dad. Still show up. Not because I owe anyone, but because I want to. I'm not angry anymore. I'm not chasing closure. I'm building something clean. And for the first time in my life, I'm not afraid it'll collapse if I stop holding it up. That's the update. Northwest more court dates. No more revelations. Just quiet work, real connection, and a life that finally feels like mine.